Our next speaker is a long-distance runner for justice, social justice in our community, Mr. Stanley Richardson. I've known Mr. Richardson for a number of years. He is a tremendous asset for social justice in this community. He is a media expert. He is a person who travels in broad circles, and he brings so much knowledge to Gainesville from throughout the world, from Africa, from Asia, from the global South. And a lot of people don't realize he's also an acclaimed poet. So please join me in welcoming Brother Stanley Richardson.
Okay. Good evening. I'm just honored to be here with you this evening, and I want to thank everybody involved who was involved in putting this together, Dr. Ortiz and Dr. Simmons and Ms. Sheila Payne. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Dr. Kennedy, for that moving speech. Thank you. As we collectively brace ourselves for what lies ahead, we must not forfeit or lose our capacity to love. Love is still the ultimate key. Love is the key. We must continue together to fight for what we love rather than fighting against what we hate. We must together continue to fight for justice, social justice, political justice, economic justice, environmental justice. So I'm asking each of you to continue to be passionate lovers of justice. I have a poem that I wrote probably 20 years ago. When I wrote it, I had drumming in my head, African drums. I've done this poem several times, but I've never ever had drumming to accompany me. I met a young man this evening. His name is Zach. And he's going to accompany me with this poem on his drums. This is a first. We just met, we didn't rehearse this, so this is really jazz. This poem is called The Promise. African drum beats. African drum beats. African drum beats. African drum beats unknown. African drum beats familiar. African drum beats forgotten vibration. Tribulation of the oppressed. Tribulation of the oppressor. Tribulation made bearable by the promise. I hear faint voices. I see murky visions struggle to become clear. Voices from the past. Voices from the past brought forth by the sweet winds of hope cry out in whispers. Remember the promise. Remember the promise. Remember the promise. Ancestors. Ancestors restless in their graves. Dry bones crying tears of dust. They cry for us. Ancestors. Restless in their graves, pale pink shades of brown, babies still slaves. Ancestors. Restless in their graves, their souls shouting, freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom cries out from the not so distant past. Freedom cries out from the present. Freedom! The promise struggles to be free. Loose me. The promise struggles to be free. Loose me. The promise struggles to be free. Loose me. Little children play in the park. Loose me. Hate holds on. Loose me. The promise, shackled by chains of ignorance. Loose me. Little children play in the park. Loose me. Ancestors, restless in their graves, dry bones crying tears of dust. They cry for us. Ancestors, restless in their graves, pale pink shades of brown babies, still slaves. Voices from the past brought forth by the sweet winds of hope cry out in whispers. Remember the promise. Remember the promise. Remember the promise. Remember the promise of love. And hate holds on. And the promise struggles to be free. Thank you. God bless.